Thanks for tuning in to Ag PhD. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. Guys are always looking for ways to reduce stress in corn and also to improve yields and plant health. Corn fungicides may be on the docket for you. We'll talk about when and where you may utilize them on your farm.
One of the best things that's happened for soybean farmers fighting Roundup-resistant weeds here in the last couple of years has been the launch of Xtend soybeans. But if you've got Xtend soybeans in the ground, what should you use post-emerge? Xtendimax or Engenia? We'll talk about it today.
Could those products be the answer for our weed of the week? Let's hope so. We'll talk about what'll control this tough weed later in the show. But first, here's our Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
We're going to take our Farm Basics time today and talk to you a little bit about the Ag PhD Field Day coming up on our farm on Thursday, July 27th this summer.
Well, last year's Field Day was certainly a record setter for us. We had over 10,000 farmers from 40 different states and 25 countries. So a lot of people are coming to the Field Day. But what are you going to see if you come to this year's Field Day? Well, even more than what we had last year.
Yep, and one of the big highlights for Darren and me every year is just getting the opportunity to take you through all of our research plots, all of the different field day plots that we've got. There's a lot that can be learned from looking at all the new technologies, some of which aren't even out on the market yet. So we get excited not just to talk about those things, but to actually show you what's going on in the field right on our own farm.
You know, one of the things we get a lot of questions about is what about these biological or natural products out there? Which ones work and what do they actually do? You can see a ton of different ones on our farm. We're going to be doing some root digs and other things where you can see what's happening above and below ground to find out if those are the kinds of things you're looking for on your farm.
We'll have a lot of live demonstrations going on throughout the day, everything from tiling to tillage, hopefully planting and harvesting, as long as the weather is right. But you know what? Most of the time, at that time of year, it's pretty dry. It's only about 85 degrees for a high temperature. The weather's usually pretty beautiful. So, as always, we're praying for great weather that day. Even if we don't have great weather, though, we have plenty of buildings, plenty of air conditioning. So we'll make sure you have a great day, regardless of what the weather's like.
We've also got some great speakers. We've got some super high-yielding farmers from across the country that'll be here. And as I mentioned before, farmers from almost everywhere in the country and around the world that you can talk to find out what you can do to improve profitability on your farm.
We invite you to attend our field day this summer. You'll have a great time. It's just a one-day event, so you don't need to take a lot of time out of your schedule. But what we try to do compared to any other farm show out there is really condense things and change it from just some spectacle where you go look at a whole bunch of different equipment and booths and everything else. We have a limited amount of those things and a lot more educational opportunities for you, whether it's just looking at our research things, talking to many of the high-yield farmers we're bringing in from all around the country, looking at their plots. So it's really more of an educational day, but it'll be a lot of fun. We encourage you to check out agphd.com to learn more.
One other thing you may want to learn for your farm is how to stop our weed of the week. We'll show you how to stop this tough weed later in the show.
Take a look inside any rotary combine and you'll find single rotor technology. Technology Case IH introduced over 35 years ago with the axial flow combine. But unless it gives you more bells and whistles with fewer belts and chains, more power using less fuel, it's not an axial flow. Because while the heart of every rotary combine beats red, only Case IH gives you the power to do more.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Leading the charge in strip tillage for more than a decade, the Soil Warrior brings the future to your farm today.
We started utilizing the Dual React system this year. You can adjust your speed and it automatically adjusts your sprayer tips. So you can slow down and you aren't building up huge droplets, or you can speed up and you're not throwing a mist that's drifting.
Hypro, helping you spray better.
Dealers, repair shops, and other ag parts resellers, this message is for you. Looking to save money on your parts purchases? Parts Express can help. We have over 3,000 popular items for tractors and combines priced at a level to save you and your customers money. In this tough ag economy, who wouldn't want to save on parts? Parts Express prides itself with old-fashioned service and easy-to-do business with environment. Go to parts-exp.com to see our parts offering and become a Parts Express dealer today.
For the last few months, we've been talking a lot about how if you've got Roundup resistant weeds, going to Xtend, or Liberty for that matter, but especially Xtend, since that's the newer one, hey, that's a really good option. But a lot of people have expressed their concern to us saying, well, I'm really worried that dicamba, if I spray it post-emerge, is going to drift. Well, we want to talk to you today about how to avoid that problem and to get the most effectiveness out of the dicamba product you're going to use post, whether it's Xtendimax or Engenia.
First of all, we're seeing big differences across the country in terms of did a pre-emerge herbicide get used or not. Where guys use the pre's, we're starting to see some weeds break through those, and we're starting to go out and clean those up. Where pre's were not used, in a lot of cases, hey, the dicamba has already been applied in those fields to try to clean things up. And if you want dicamba to work the best, you've got to use a pre-emerge herbicide. Now, I'm not saying, well, you got to wipe out 90% of the weeds because it's not going to do a very good job. No. I'm not saying that at all. But getting good coverage is really critical. When we look at dicamba and we're spraying across a very thick patch, we can get excellent coverage on the leaves we can hit. But if there are smaller weeds coming underneath that first flush of weeds, it's really tough to penetrate that and get great coverage on all the weeds. We've already seen a number of fields across the country where the big weeds died, the small weeds didn't, and guys are like, what happened here? The small weeds didn't die. Yeah, they were shaded underneath those big ones.
Thank you, Darren, for tempering our expectations with dicamba. But let me just say this, the only good news that I have here for you compared to a Roundup or Liberty is dicamba at least does have some residual. So it's possible that even if there are some little weeds below the canopy, if you got a rain and a good sized rain fairly soon afterwards, you could have that dicamba move in the soil and get to that little weed. Now let's talk specifically about Xtendimax and Engenia. What are these products? Well, they are dramatic volatility reduction products compared to Clarity. They say roughly 90% volatility reduction compared to Clarity, and Clarity was roughly 90% less than Banville. So if you look at old Banville and how it used to pick up and move from field to field after you had sprayed, the likelihood of that happening with Engenia and Xtendimax is really, really slim. So don't get too worried about spraying this stuff post-emerge. Just use it at the labeled rate and in the labeled fashion. In other words, there are two big things here we're going to talk about. No ammonium sulfate, number one, and use the right spray nozzle, number two.
Let's talk about that ammonium sulfate first. Now, when you put it with a dicamba product, any of the dicamba products, it increases volatility. So there are other things we could add to the tank rather than ammonium sulfate. When you're putting dicamba in the tank, absolutely no ammonium sulfate should go in that tank if you want to keep volatility down.
There are now different sequestering agents and other products that are labeled for both Engenia and Xtendimax, and you can look at the labels on those, XtendimaxApplicationRequirements.com or EngeniaTankMix.com. All right, the other thing that we mentioned is spray nozzles. You'll also find spray nozzles on those websites. There are certain nozzles that are approved. Basically, we want ultra low drift nozzles, very coarse spray droplets, so there is very little risk for any off-target movement.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about these two formulations because Engenia and Xtendimax are completely different formulations. They're not the exact same thing. When we look at Xtendimax, it has the active ingredient from Clarity. However, they also have Vapor Grip included. Vapor Grip is another product that's in that tank to help reduce the volatility. Now, we talked about ammonium sulfate leading to more volatility. We talked about spray nozzles stopping physical drift. With the Xtendimax with the proper nozzles, we've eliminated both of those issues to a great degree. Now with Engenia, it is a slightly different form of dicamba than what is in Xtendimax or Clarity. So Engenia's got a new formulation, a new salt of dicamba, as you'll hear BASF explain, and that particular salt has much less volatility. So when we look at vapor grip, huge reduction in volatility. We look at the new Engenia, huge reduction in volatility. Both of these products get to the same endpoint, just a little different way. So they're going to still have that weed killing power of dicamba, but they aren't going to have the volatility concerns that we had with Banvelt and Clarity.
Okay, so which one are you going to pick, Engenia or Xtendimax? Look, a lot of farmers are going with Xtendimax because if they're already in on Roundup Ready Plus, the Xtendimax is going to be less expensive. BASF does have programs out there too, so in some cases Engenia may be less expensive, but at least at this point we're seeing a lot more acres go Xtendimax. We think both products are good. We're using both products on our farm. They are both very effective.
So Engenia and Xtendimax, two different products, both with great volatility reductions from the old formulations of dicamba. We're excited about them for controlling Roundup resistant weeds. Our weed of the week is Roundup resistant, but will those products stop it? We'll let you know later in the show.
Corn uses 75% of its nitrogen after V10. Investing all of your nitrogen budget before the crop is planted means you can't react to the changes in nitrate levels due to mineralization, rainfall, and temperatures. Split application using the 360Y drop boosts nitrogen efficiency and often yields. In seasons with strong mineralization, you can save input costs by reducing applied N. In wet years, replace lost N and hit your yield goal. Learn more at 360yieldcenter.com.
We've got teams all over talking about low salt, micronutrient, high efficiency fertilizer teams like it's something new. What's your take?
I tell you, Don, AgroLiquid team has had these technologies for over 30 years.
And really unprecedented application versatility, compatibility, and ease of use. So they're your pick for the championship season?
You bet. Their full line nutrients is going to take them all the way to the root zone.
And now we have Jenny in the field talking with Farmer Dave.
Thanks, Don. Dave, after the impressive turnaround last year, what are your plans for the coming season?
Well, as you know, I changed teams mid-season last year. Now I know my AgroLiquid partners are ready to go to work. I'm completely happy with the performance and the level of dedication I get from AgroLiquid.
From the guys in the field?
Everyone at AgroLiquid. I believe AgroLiquid has me on the road to success.
There you have it, Don. Dave has a plan for another championship season with AgroLiquid.
They're my pick too. AgroLiquid's going all the way.
With the success of the Case IH Steiger Quad Track and Magnum Road Track tractors, it's no secret why Case IH is the leader of the track. So it wasn't surprising when the competition started imitating us. But only Case IH offers a 5-axle design to give you a smoother ride, more power to the ground, with less berming and compaction. Still, we're flattered. In fact, if we weren't already red, we'd be blushing.
There are trillions of hardworking microbes right beneath your feet. Today, Monsanto BioAg is harnessing the power of microbes, creating microscopic farmhands that help plants access nutrients, enhance root and shoot growth, and handle stressful conditions throughout the season, protecting and maximizing your yield potential. We're turning 500 trillion microbes into 500 trillion new farmhands, ready for work. Nature, it's powerful technology.
Tired of that old warped poly boom ruining your spray applications? Express Boom from Hypro is a fully assembled stainless steel boom that ensures an even application of chemicals every time. Don't wait another season, upgrade today. Hypro, helping you spray better.
In the last 5 to 10 years, we found a lot of farmers around the country are either spraying corn fungicide or asking about corn fungicide. So today we want to talk about your options for your farm this year.
So first of all, you may ask, well, why do I need to use a corn fungicide? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all is disease control. If you've got diseases like gray leaf spot or northern corn leaf blight in your area, we've seen some huge boosts in yield by getting a fungicide out there to protect your plants. The other thing, even when we don't have disease, we see some yield gains from plant health improvements, reducing the stress on plants. Now, if you're like Brian, you may say, I don't have any stress, everything's great out here, but you know what? We get some days that are hot, we get some stretches that we don't get enough rain, or we get too much rain, or maybe it even gets too cool at times during the season. There are going to be some stresses on your corn plants throughout the season, so reducing stress can be a real positive as well.
Well, it can, but when you say a real positive, I don't know if I would go that far with fungicides. So what I'm getting at here is I think you'll gain a little bit of yield if all you have is stress reduction. You're going to gain a lot more yield if there's some disease component to this. What we found in our area is the tassel time application that works so well for farmers in Iowa and Illinois and Indiana and a lot of the rest of the country, especially as you start moving south. That's been awesome for them. For us, it hasn't worked very well because we have a lot more expense at that point. Here's what I'm getting at. In terms of expense, when you're out there spraying at that V5 to V7 kind of timing, you can spray yourself, and the corn is small, so a lot of farmers are using a half rate. So if you only spend $3 to $5 on a fungicide, and that's it, you're out there spraying anyway, well, that's not a lot of expense. Literally, if you get a 2 or 3 bushel gain, you have probably doubled your money. That's awesome. Okay, but the problem is at tassel application, you need to use the full rate because you got a great big corn plant now, and you're probably going to have to hire somebody to come in and do it for you. If you have to hire a plane and that costs $8, well, if you spend 10 on the fungicide and 8 on the plane, that's $18. So even just to break even, you probably have to have 5 bushels of corn. To double your money, you have to have 10. And we're not gaining 10 on average with tassel applications on our farm or in our area. But we're in dryland South Dakota where we only get 20 inches of total annual precipitation, including the snow all year, and we don't have much history of corn disease like they do in other areas.
So why these timings that Brian laid out? Well, first of all, when we look down in that V4 to V7 range, I think Brian said V5 to V7, but let's just widen that out a little bit. V4 to V7, that ear on the corn plant is determining how big around it's going to be. When ear shoots are being initiated and when the girth of the ear is being determined, that's an important time to reduce any stresses or to eliminate any diseases that could take energy away from producing that ear of corn. That's why that stage is so critical. Now, here's the other thing. You're going to get 2 or 3 weeks of residual out of these fungicides. Now, maybe a little bit longer. It could vary depending on what product you do, how good a coverage you get, all those things. But when you think about V7 corn, for example, you probably have 10 leaves that are out. Well, if you've got 10 leaves that are out, you almost have that ear leaf on your plant. And if you could protect the ear leaf, that can really help us even later in the season.
Okay, I want to talk about the fungicides that you can use. There are so many choices now. There are a lot of combination products. We encourage you to at least consider a combination product. But one way you can do that too is you can mix a couple products on your own rather than using a premix. All I know is when I look at the fungicide prices today versus 5 years ago, the price is a lot less. And again, when you're spraying early and the plant is half size or less, a lot of people are using half rates and getting by very, very well. I don't even worry about resistance because they're using that appropriate rate for an appropriate sized plant. Okay, but again, when you get to tassel, that's where you've got to go with the full rate. So you can look at some of the combination products or premix products like Trivapro, excellent. Stratego Yield, great. Preemptor is excellent. Preaxor, excellent. All those are very, very good, but they're going to be a little bit more expensive than if you go with, let's say, generic Quadris, like Equation, for example. That's $3 an acre for a half rate or less. And you could throw in some generic Tilt, let's say, for a couple of bucks. So you can cut your cost if you want to use a little bit older technology. If you want to use one of these premixes, might cost you a little bit more. In many cases, you gain the yield, but all I'm trying to say is you've got a lot of options today, and the costs are all less than they were 5 years ago.
One last comment I had is the stress that happens right around the reproductive phases. When Brian mentioned most of the country has seen the best gains late in the season. Once we get to the reproductive stages, we've got tassels out, silkings beginning. That's a great time to put a fungicide on because there's so much stress on the plant as it's trying to move a lot of nutrients up to feed that.
Well, that's also when you get some of these really bad diseases like gray leaf spot. So yes, you could go out there at full tassel. You could go 10 to 14 days later with another application in really high yielding corn. We have seen that pay in a lot of cases. But again, If you have a history of disease, you're a little further south, you got gray leaf spot, northern corn leaf blight, some of these tougher diseases, that's where it's most likely to pay.
Well, one other big yield robber that you need to be concerned about is our Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to stop it coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow AgroSciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
Farming isn't just in the land, it's in you. Take control of weeds like never before. Enlist builds on the Roundup Ready system, combining proven control of a new 2,4-D and glyphosate in Enlist Duo herbicide. Protect what matters without changing the way you farm. Talk to your seed or crop protection supplier today.
Our Weed of the Week is Roundup resistant, ALS resistant, and resistant to just about everything else too, Kochia.
All right, well, Kochia is just an annual weed, Brian.
I
It
know.
shouldn't be that tough to kill.
It's not that bad. You just have to use the right products.
Well, okay, I think it's interesting. I was talking to a crop consultant just a couple of years ago, and he was talking to some of his clients, and he said, look, if you guys will not put a pre-emerge herbicide out, at least 2 pre-emerge herbicides out in front of your soybeans, I'm not even going to scout your fields for you because there's nothing I can do. We've got Roundup Ready soybeans. If we don't kill them pre, we're not going to kill the weed post. There's no other helpers.
Well, let's put it this way. If you have Roundup resistant Kochia and you're still planting Roundup 2 beans, what are you doing? What are you doing? We have no good option. We have Cobra that'll maybe at best get 60% of your Kochia. That's it. So we strongly encourage you, switch over to Liberty beans or switch over to Xtend beans. Liberty is great on Kochia as long as the Kochia is small and you use the right spray pressure and nozzle and all that kind of stuff. Xtend, you can use Xtendimax or Engenia. They're both excellent on Kochia. Again, though, we want that Kochia small, use a pre, and you should be in good shape.
So as far as those pre's go, use either Authority or Valor. Add to that Metribuzin, which really helps on Kochia, and then add one of the yellows like Prowl and No-Till or Trifluralin and conventional till.
Okay, post-emerge, your only options other than Cobra, which is terrible. You've got Xtendimax or Engenia in Xtend beans. You've got Liberty in Liberty Link beans. Make sure you're using full rates, right spray nozzle, that type of thing.
Okay, in wheat, you can use Sharpen as a pre. Post-emerge, you can have good luck with Wide Match.
And in corn, many different products you can use. HPPD post, status post, add a little atrazine post, pre-emerge. It all depends on what you want to use for a post-emerge product, but I'd probably run something like Verdict. That's my favorite, but many other products can work too.
Kochia is a tough weed to get under control. Make sure you're using a pre-emerge herbicide and don't mess around on the post. Get after it right away.
That's all the time for our Weed of the Week, but stay tuned. Iron Talk is coming up next.
We love the quality, we love the construction. We're looking forward to working with Morton in the future.
They have this down to a science. They know exactly what you want. They know how to make it happen. It's an easy process.
I would definitely recommend Morton. From the first time I met the salesman to the last nail that the crew put in, it has been a positive and professional experience.
I'm so happy I found Morton because they just make the job so easy.
Find the building of your dreams at mortonbuildings.com.
For lower costs, higher production, Mandico Agri leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. Avoid costly downtime with Twister's ease of maintenance. Its unique Coulter suspension allows it to follow the contour of the field yet remain forgiving in rocks. Our hydraulically adjustable Coulter angles mean you never leave the cab, making residue management easier, more efficient. Spring or fall, the Mandico Twister is the new leader. Check with your local dealer or visit mandicoagri.com.
One of the biggest yield limiting factors on farms is even crop emergence, and only one closing wheel will get your growing season started right. Furrow Cruiser spiked closing wheels from Copperhead Ag are proven to yield better than standard rubber tire and cast iron closing wheels in all conditions. With yield gains that give you a return on investment the first season, there's no reason to run a standard closing system again. Visit copperheadag.com today to get your 2017 growing season started right.
A farmer's attention to detail is what makes the difference. You take the time for service management because you know how vital it is to your operation. You service your field like everything else because soil sampling makes all the difference and gets the results you want. Download the app Soil Test Pro and start grid sampling today. Keep your farm growing strong. The more you test, the more you know.
Are you looking for an easy way to apply dry powdered products to your stored grain? Do you want to use the applicator recommended by industry leaders for products like Diacon D and other dry powder products? Changing Time CT applicators successfully apply a diversity of products quickly, easily, and accurately. The innovative CT applicators are designed to give you the most accurate application of products such as talc, inoculants, fertilizers, and other dry products. For commercial use or on the farm, you need the applicator industry leaders are using. CT applicators for the changing times.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
The AFS Connect Farm Management System from Case IH connects you, and only you, to the information you need most from your equipment, from anywhere, at any time. AFS Connect, only from Case IH.
How close does the side dress nitrogen really need to be to your corn plants? I'll discuss that in today's Iron Talk. There are a number of ways to apply nitrogen in crop in corn. Every farm has different assets to work with. For example, you may have a pivot or a lateral that you can fertigate through. You may have a high clearance spreader to apply dry urea or even ammonium sulfate. Some farms utilize a coulter to inject nitrogen, while others use a high clearance sprayer and a wide drop system. There are many different ways you can go. If your method of choice involves placing the nitrogen deeper in the soil, potential root pruning is a concern. For this reason, the coulter applications we've made with our Hagee machine have been done near the center of the row. With moisture, the nitrogen will move, and by this time our roots are reaching close to the center of the row to get it anyway. Root pruning is minimized, and nitrogen recovery is normally pretty good. My brother likes this method because his concern is always that we may not get a rainfall soon enough to get surface applications of nitrogen into the plant. We've also observed good results with the wide drop applications, in part because the nitrogen is placed right above the majority of the plant roots. Now, there's certainly some moisture present around the base of the plants if you get a morning dew on the corn. And while Brian is still concerned about needing some moisture to get the nitrogen in the ground, the results from across the country have been overwhelmingly positive. Placing nitrogen close to the row or even in the center of a 30-inch row can work just fine. Either way, getting timely and sufficient moisture is the real key to maximizing the benefit of your side dress application. If you're in a more arid climate, we suggest either method be done a little earlier than if you're in a higher rainfall area. We'd also suggest a nitrogen stabilizer or a stabilized nitrogen formulation like High Energy N be used. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
On your farm, you need speed and year-round effectiveness in your tillage program. The Quick Till from Norwood Sales allows you to move quickly through your fields, maximizing time and improving yield. Constructed of heavy-duty materials, the Quick Till is ideal for both spring and fall applications, from preparing a healthy seedbed early in the season to breaking up corn residue after harvest. For more information about how a Quick Till can improve fields on your farm, call Norwood Sales today.
That's all the time we have for today's show, but before we go, we want to invite you to tune in to the Ag PhD radio show. We're on Sirius XM channel 147 at 2 p.m. Central each weekday.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We'll have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
A healthy soil helps to keep our air and water clean while providing a medium for productive crops, pastures, and shelter belts. To learn more about how farmers are improving the health of their soils, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.